Okay, so first of all, let me say that this is a very, very special event in which we are introducing our fantastic guests. These are the co-editors of the new photography and visual narratives page here on Jedelia. And I would like to start by asking them to introduce themselves. There's Muhammad, there's Miriam, there's Tanya, and there's Abdu, and there's Faris. So if we can just start in any order, please go ahead. Or Tanya, why don't you start, since you are the one who actually convinced me, and I convinced you at the same time. We were trying to convince each other. It turns out we didn't need to, about actually revamping this page. Please go ahead.
Meeting you was very fortuitous. It came just at the right time. A random brunch, and within 2 minutes of meeting each other, the ideas were spewing forward. We're all connected on this call in some way by the Arab Documentary Photo Program. And I would like to give a hats off to that program, because I think without it, it wouldn't have kickstarted all of the work that we're doing together. This program is funded by the Magnum Foundation, Prince Claus, and of course, AFAC, Arab Fund for Arts and Culture. And it's a game changer. I think in terms of a photography education program anywhere in the world, there's nothing like it. And if I'd had something like this when I was young, basically they take, to surmise it shortly, they take 9 to 10 grants a year, and they choose the best applications from North Africa, from the Levant, from the Gulf. And essentially it's 6 months mentoring, 5 days in Beirut, 6 months online, and 5 closing days in Beirut. And Samji, Mohammed Samji, he's been a nominator, he's been a juror. Samji is an incredible human being, already elevating the game of photography from Dubai. Miriam and Abdu are both, Miriam's in the current cycle, Abdu is a previous cycle. It's a program that not only celebrates and gives a platform for the incredibly complex and wonderful photography that is arising out of our realpolitik, our geopolitical realities, very complex narratives that quite often will not find a home in the West, or that would be reduced if they were, that they try to fit it into a different format. And we unfortunately do not yet have our own platforms in the Middle East that are celebrating this wonderful complex photography. Egypt is exploding in documentary photography, and we don't have a publication that is not yet exploiting. We want to make this a thriving place, and Jedelia, the home that Bassam and all of his amazing colleagues, by reopening the photography page that Michelle created before us, we have a lot of plans, and there's a lot more coming. And just in short, my name is Tanya Hapjoka. I am a Jordanian Texan, and I'm a photojournalist, I'm a photographer. I work in the murky middle between arts and journalism, and I work out of Palestine, and I'm a member of Noor.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Okay, so we're gonna go live now. This was like just a rehearsal. If you
I'll kill you.
Okay, no, that was live. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. Great on time. You basically combined introducing yourself with why we are creating this page. I saw the wine glass. Why we are creating, which is an accompaniment during every Skype or Zoom or Blue Jeans call we have, which is great. So it's an you accompany the discussion of why we're creating this page, why you are creating this page, with your introduction. So I might as well ask everyone to do so, if that's all right. Let's go to Abdu, counterclockwise. Or clockwise, actually. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Abdu Shannan. I'm Sudanese Algerian. I'm a photographer based on Algiers. On my work, I try to focus on identity because it's a personal quest. I joined the team of Jedelia because, as Tanya said, I believe that we have so many stories from this region that is not told the way, that is not shown the way it's supposed to be shown, or it's disregarded because it doesn't fit a certain narrative that is controlling the world right now. And I think also that in order to move forward with the work we have right now from photographers from all over the region, we also need a platform that gives a space for these photographers to actually express themselves. With the work, of course, from my co-editors who understand the politics of this work, the context of this work, and the culture also of this work. That's it.
Thank you, Abdu.
Wait, that's it. Abdu is one of the founders of an amazing photo collective.
As you're talking, I'm going to show some of his images.
Yes.
Because you're going to be saying a few things, so I'll show some of the images that he has sent me.
Abdu is incredibly humble, too humble, but it's actually refreshing. He is a founder, an amazing group of photographers out of Algeria, 220. I got it right? 220! He won the Contemporary African Portrait Prize for his project Dry. I guess, is that what we're looking at here, Abdu?
Yes, this one, yes.
You want to talk about the work?
Actually, Dry is me asking a question about identity and the influence of social environment where we live on our identities as people from this region. But I take only the Algerian social environment as a common factor between the different people I'm meeting. The project is an ongoing project. I started in 2017. It took me all over Algeria. It took me to France. I met a lot of people, and it's a life changing experience because these people I've met, they helped me understand a big deal about my identity, a big deal about many questions that I had, and I'm really grateful to those people. I hope I could, share more about this work later when it's finished. But I think now I have to give space to other co-editors to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Abdu. And I'd like to move on to Somji, Mohammed Somji.
Thank you, Bassam. Thank you, Abdu and Tanya. My name is Mohammed. I am based in Dubai. I'm from Tanzania, but I've lived here my whole life in the Emirates. And I run a photography center in Dubai called Gulf Photo Plus, and I'm also a photographer and increasingly getting involved with curation and trying to help facilitate or enable photographers in our region to have their stories told in the region especially, but also beyond, and to tell it in their terms. So a lot of the work that we do at Gulf Photo Plus is aimed at being a resource for photographers, but then also providing a platform to showcase their work through our exhibitions. And I'm very fortunate to have everybody here other than Forrest who have either shown work at our space or come to teach for us or presented their work. Abdu's work right now adorns our walls at our gallery, and so it's a pleasure to work with him. Tanya has come a few times to Dubai to teach and has left an indelible impression on many young minds, mostly good. Tanya and I actually met in 2007 at a workshop together, and I think is one of the most special people for me in terms of influencing my relationship with photography and also the work that I've been doing, and someone who's been a constant inspiration, and I'm really proud to kind of be able to have her work shown in a festival in Breda that we're organizing. And I think Jedelia is kind of like the perfect perfect space to bring a lot of.
Stop at perfect. It's fine.
It's really kind of a perfect destination for a lot of what we are trying to do, which is to give a voice to the many interesting projects and artists in the region, to cultivate and collaborations and relationships, and we have some really fascinating work that's coming out of the region, as Tanya was saying, but sadly very few platforms that are willing to show it without bias, without reduction, without being reductive. And I hope and I know that Jedelia will be that platform. And for me, I think Tanya and Abdu said a lot about what Jedelia aimed to do, but I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is this cross-pollination of some brilliant minds, and I've learned so much in the process. And even kind of having this talk that we did about Battle of Algiers, kind of coming across the people that were part of that was you know, mind-blowing in terms of, you know, just the amount of resources and you know, ideas and kind of a reading list also. So yeah, I'm really excited to be you know, part of this, and I think that there's going to be some really good things coming. We have to be patient. There's a lot of work to do, but I'm excited at what this holds. So thank you.
Thank you, Abdu. I'm going to also take this opportunity to showcase a couple of photos that I have here. If you can talk about them, I have about, I mean, dozens from you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I am choosing a couple. If you want me to go to a particular one, or
No, I think because we kind of, you know, did this on the fly. This is just a random album of like images, but I'm really interested in the experience in maybe if you can go lower down instead of these images, Bassam, but I'm interested in the kind of lived experiences of people who come to the Gulf. There's been a lot of talk about kind of migrant experience in the Gulf. And you know, it's a very interesting facet of our lives here, given that in the UAE, for example, 90% of the population is not from here. And, you know, there's always this kind of narrative about, you know, guest workers, you know, many a Western photographer and sadly photographers from our region as well have focused on the kind of, you know, migrant worker story, and often in a very sensationalist portrayal. But I think lost in that narrative is the lives that are lived sometimes by accident, sometimes by purpose. And, you know, people come here for a few years, many of them stay for much longer. And in this time, they build relationships, and they, you know, they watch their kids grow from afar. And I think sometimes that personalization or that humanization is lost. And so, you know, the work that I'm doing now consists of multiple chapters that hopefully inform people about the you know, the lives that people lead recreationally, you know, what they do in their pastimes. And I think often that is always that is overlooked and sidestepped in favor of very kind of reductive portrayals of like men working in, you know, in blue overalls. And I think they deserve more. And so that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. I will endeavor to include a collection, maybe like 3 to 4 images from each person when we actually post this video, either on Jedelia or on Status Al-Wada or elsewhere. So I will ask you to send me a few photos. You don't even have to comment on them, but you know, you can if you'd like to, so we can add them as well as your bio. I'm not reading your bios because I felt that you are doing a better job on the one hand. On the other hand, that gives us more time to address other matters, but we will include the bios in the actual post. Miriam, please introduce yourself and tell us why you feel this was an important page to create, and say something about your work, if you don't mind.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I'm really happy to be part of such an amazing team and part of Jedelia, of course. I remember when Tanya first emailed us about the idea of the page, you know, like when I saw you know, the initial idea about the page, I just said it's something that we really needed. So, you know, I was like really driven by a need, because usually I try to look for work from the region. And more than work, I think what we lack is conversation about the work itself. And it will be really interesting to have this page where we can see different narratives from the region, and it gives you a different outlook actually, because, you know, I read through a lot of photography, you know, articles, websites about Latin America, USA, but I can't recall a page that really collect a work from the region. So I'm really excited to see by the time, step by step, how the content will be built through this page. I think it will be really, really interesting. It will offer a different perspective as well. And I think what is equally important is the conversation that will be created around this work. And since we have multidisciplinary contributors in Jedelia, I think this is somehow will enrich the content as well as the openness of the page. You know, it's not about us, the co-editors, but it's open to different people to contribute and like with no bias. And I think this is would be like I'm really looking forward. We still don't have a lot, but I'm really looking forward of what this page will be in the future. So I'm a Bahraini documentary photographer, and as Tanya said, I'm a part of the 2019 Arab Documentary Photography Program. I'm still working on my project. I'm mostly interested in landscape, political, and historical narratives. I'm mostly doing my work now from Bahrain, where I'm based. Yeah, I think that's all.
Thank you, Mariam. I'm going to show a couple of images. If you can just comment on them, if you don't mind. The images you've sent me, these are not random images that I'm selecting from the world. These are your images. So if you can let us know what we are looking at. There are 3 or 4 images that I'll go through.
Yeah. So most of my work until now is about Bahrain, and this picture in particular is of Jinan. She is a Bahraini living in diaspora in the United Kingdom, and it's a project that I did with the British Council in 2019, speaking about the idea of home and immigration. Yeah. Next, I think. This is from my current project. This is Fatima, and behind her is her father, Khalil Halwachi, and he is currently in prison. And yeah, you know, the religious landscape of Bahrain always is always. I'm always intrigued by the religious landscape, which is like dominates the country. So I cannot fit this photo in a project yet, but maybe in the future. This was in a shrine in Bahrain. This was taken. And yeah, I think this is like a kind of street shot of young guys playing volleyball, also from Bahrain.
Shukran. Thank you, Mariam. And Faris, you are
Yes.
next, and you're the last one that is going before we talk a little bit more about plans for what you guys would like to do and show a little bit about the page and wrap up with whatever it is that you all feel is important as co-editors of this new project.
Okay, so my name is Faris Treish. I am a Palestinian. I grew up in the US for 10 years, then I've been living here for the past 9 years. I consider myself in the category of amateur photojournalist. I'm just starting out. I'm Tanya's intern right now. A lot of my focus and my very, very, very limited time doing this has been a lot about showing the side of Palestine we don't always see on the news, we don't always see on TV, really trying to shift the narrative that we're so obviously bombarded by on mainstream media when it comes to talking about Palestinians and Palestinian teenagers. So a lot of my work so far has been about really showing the vulnerability, the beauty, trying to humanize Palestinians and show that we're just like anywhere else in the world. I mean, we can have fun, we can be beautiful, we can be sad, we can be strong, we can be all of these things. I'm super excited that, you know, the Jedelia photography page has launched because, you know, for so many years, it's so hard to find a place that gathers photography and different art from, you know, artists and journalists all over the MENA region. So now it's really cool not only to be witnessing the page forming, but actually be a part of it, get to see the people who are really doing the hard work, who are really telling these amazing stories. And on the personal level, they've all been amazing and super friendly. So for me, it's just really cool to finally see and be a part of a strong place where all of these photographers and photojournalists are coming together in this region and create something that everybody can see that might change someone's perspective, someone's mind. So overall, I'm just enthusiastic and excited to see what's going to happen with the page going forward.
I'd like to add, Faris is indeed my intern. He's the first intern I've ever agreed to take on because I was just riveted by his photography. He's working on a personal project called Sins and Cigarettes that was so raw and intimate. And I hadn't seen anything like this out of Palestine, and from a kid who hadn't studied. And basically, he is the Palestinian Nan Golden. And I think that it's important. I think photography often can be ego and led by, wow, what prize this person has and who this is, and what we're building in our community here. We're learning from him, like Faris, you know, this amazing graduate who just got a full scholarship to go to the US and study media, is teaching us, for example, complex political literal dances that are being done on TikTok. And so we are aspiring with this page, highbrow, lowbrow, fun, all of the voices. We're going to have the heavier hitting academic. We're also aspiring, since although we do have some exciting plans that I can't reveal just yet, Bassam and the Jedelia network is amazing. They have a publishing branch. They have so much, and we've got big plans, but to be revealed in time. But we have our eyes on not being exploited. For example, work that hasn't been published. We're not going to do wide presentations of that work, but Q&A, like giving the platform a voice and a design that will drive the traffic back to the photographers. And I think that it says a lot that we've got from someone like Samji, who's an international curator and owner of a institution giving workshops in Dubai, to Faris, a graduate, and to, you know, so I think that speaks a lot to our team. And our team, this is unfortunately we have one human down, Miriam Hassan. She's an unbelievable academic thinker, historian, and you're going to see shortly a piece that we co-edited together from, I don't want to reveal too much, but she unfortunately was feeling ill tonight, but we have a wide array of voices, and we are also very open to collaborating and expanding our team.
Thank you, Tanya. I also want to say that in 1990 or 91, when I was in college, professors would say, what are the kids thinking about today? What do they do? And I was like, you know, what do? We do what everybody does. You know, I just thought that was weird. But then 30 years later, I find myself trying to figure it out. I am very active on social media and culturally and otherwise, but still. So Faris thinks that we're inviting him here just because of the reasons Tanya shared and the reasons he shared. He doesn't know that he's the youngest member of this team, and we want to know, what the hell are you guys thinking about? I'm joking. So, but it's really important, the perspective you've already shared with us in private, in informal discussions. So we are very happy to have you. Before I ask Tanya to say more and show some of her images, I would like to just point everyone's attention to the new photography page on Jedelia. So if you go to Jedelia, you can click on the burger menu on the left and visit the photography page. It is in its current form, it is a bit boxy, but given the fantastic debut we have had, and given what is happening with the team and the plans that are being concocted, we are actually working on revamping the design of the page so it comports more with what photographers and storytellers would like to feature or see featured, and in the manner that they would like to see it featured. So we are actually doing that. Before I move on, can I share some of your images, Tanya? And then through that, if each of you can take a couple of minutes to talk about, are you trying to squint to see? These are not your images. I'm going to show them now in a second. So I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about the images I'm going to show you, Tanya. These are yours images, but I also would like to ask you to see if you could share with us what your ideas are about moving forward. What would be interesting to do? What would be interesting to reveal? What would be interesting to debunk in terms of how people view photography, and how basically, I'm speaking as a layperson here, how basically people assume photography is just about photography, it's just about pictures, it's just about images. I know this is very basic to you guys, but it's really important to actually share this with a wider audience. What is it that you guys do? So I'll start with the screen share and we'll take it from there. Bismillah. Okay. So what are we looking at?
We are looking at twin brothers outside of Nablus and a very symbolic airplane without wings. And these two brothers, right before the Second Intifada, had a dream of opening a restaurant fun fair. And then unfortunately, so they acquired this plane that was going to be a centerpiece, and there used to be a fun wheel, a Ferris wheel. And then the Second Intifada started, and basically the Israelis set up camp right there. So it killed the possibility of opening. So they ended up, to make money, opening a trash dump. And then, of course, after the Second Intifada ended, they removed the trash dump, but the smell is so atrocious that it lingers to this day. And therefore, it's this awkward, strange, wingless plane that remains on the landscape.
Okay, thank you. What about this one?
This was taken, this happened to be literally 2 days after Trump arbitrarily announced that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. And I happened to be, it was, we all need to eat as photographers, and we take various assignments. So it was actually on an NGO assignment. And I was, and I try to diversify and always elevate what I give, but there's also the core imagery that you have to give them. And that this moment happened where these women were, these young Palestinian volunteers were setting up like a theater for these Bedouin children. And so they were setting it up. And I saw, of course, the Dome of the Rock, and I got excited. And so I stood there for 20 minutes waiting for the perfect moment. And the people at the NGO were like, excuse me. And I turned to them, I said, I promise you, I will give you what you ask. Just leave me in this moment. This is my image. So this was tied to that. And this is actually in Gaza. And it was right after Operation Cast Lead. And in a lot of the remote neighborhoods that had been particularly devastated, there was a lot of trauma from lack of agency, of being able to do anything, of children having witnessed family members die. And so they were giving these first aid training to girls who were, of course, giggling. And the point was practical, because the ambulances through the devastation couldn't always access because of rubble. So on the one hand, to try to prolong the life, so teaching basic first aid, but what they told me was really, it was more psychosocial, like trying to give them a sense of agency and possibility when in a very insane, violent situation. And oh my God, I mean, the thing is if I talk about each of these images, I'll go on and on.
One. If you want,
a girl traumatized from a French settler, and there's a group of children, and they whisper his name, Didi. And I mean, each story, so these are all images from an ongoing project that I have going on called the Un/Holy Land. And it's a character ensemble piece. And it's really going in between the lines, in between the unexpected places, through character development, to show, on the one hand, the sort of hypocritical framing of religion in terms of what essentially is colonialism, what is, not essentially, it is colonialism, but finding a different methodology of telling that. And there's films and a lot of different approaches, and this is my baby, and it will be, and Somji is giving it its first show in a few months in Breda Festival.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. If I can ask each of you to just share with us an idea or two that they would like to implement, and also share with viewers now live. I mean, we don't have 1 million viewers live, but usually we don't, because we sometimes announce these things last minute. But this will be, featured on various pages, and people will be watching. So let our viewers, readers know what to expect, if you will. And let me start with Abdu, and then go also clockwise.
Well, to me, I have many many goals with this page, but there is a particular goal that is very important to me, which is the country where I live, Algeria, actually is not present worldwide, like an image side. And when you talk to any man or woman from Egypt or from Saudi Arabia or from Syria, you ask him about Algeria, the first question is the country of a million and a half martyr. That's all they know about this country. While it's a very diverse country, it's a very rich country, it has a history that goes beyond the Liberation War. So I think it's important to me personally to show this country, to promote stories from this country. I don't want to seem selfish, but I think it's important. It's not only about Algeria, but it's all about the whole Maghreb, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, and Morocco. I felt that issue while working on the launch. The language is an important factor in all of this, because most of the photographers, Algerian photographers, for example, they speak French, so their pieces must be written in French. And that's what hit me, that there's a gap between the Maghreb countries and the rest of the region. And I think with Jedelia page, we can rebuild these bridges that we tried to build in the 60s and 70s. And I think in the 90s and 2000, we lost those bridges, and it's important to bring them back again. And I think that photography is a language that is strong enough to rebuild these bridges. And so my goal is not selfish. And I think that and I see the faces of my co-editors, and I think they agree with me because they're smiling. Otherwise, I would have issues when we go offline. But I think it's an important something to do. I think to rebuild those bridges through photography.
Thank you, Abdu. Thank you so much, Somji. By the way, I call you Somji because Tanya calls you Somji, even though this is your last name. So Muhammad Somji, please.
Doesn't matter. Happy to be called Somji. So I think the sky is the limit as to what we can post on this. And I think we're finding our feet. I'm excited for a number of things to happen. The obvious one, which is to kind of give voices to photographers, to tell interesting stories, without constraint. I'm excited for collaborations to happen. I'm excited for kind of minds to come together. So for example, our latest exhibition at Gulf Photo Plus is a group show that features work covering the uprising and the protests in the Arab world, that started late last year. From Algeria, from Beirut, from Iraq, and from Sudan. And I think it worked beautifully in terms of, first of all, it was stories or work that was done by people who live and breathe these cities. It was work that was personal and relevant and important. And there were so many commonalities, but they were also very different. The West and sometimes even within the region, we tend to homogenize the Arab region, and I think what we were able to kind of do through the contributions of people like Abdu and 9 other photographers is to really kind of bring this to the forefront and talk about what's happening in the region. And I think, this is something similar that we can do, especially on an online platform. I'm also excited to see collaborations between writers, academics, and image makers, and, also introduce, new forms of storytelling. And I think that we're seeing this really exciting wave of storytelling happen through unconventional ways. And we have to figure out how to make the technology work. But I think that is really interesting. I mean, just Tanya talked about TikTok and that is potentially a really powerful medium to reach people who would never have, considered the kind of work that we're doing. And so, I mean, I'm giddy at the possibilities of what, this page can offer, and also the kind of connections it can make. And also, I'd love to hear from people who are listening to this, people who are photographers, or people who think that they can collaborate with the photographer, to write to us at photo@jedelia.com with their ideas, their suggestions, their critique about the pieces that we've put there now? What would they like to see more of? What would they, do they have ideas? Would they like to contribute things? So we'd love to see viewer engagement. And also within this wonderful Arab Studies Institute umbrella that you have, Bassam, I think there are a lot of potential and interesting, cultivations that can happen amongst us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. Can you tell us what we are looking at on my screen right now? We are looking at a post on Jedelia about Battle of Algiers film discussion video. Can you tell us a little bit about this event that took place last week and was extremely popular, and people were moved by the testimonies and the analysis and descriptions of people involved?
Sure. So when we were, looking at the launch of the page and, having Algeria as a focus, we thought it would be nice to have a discussion about Battle of Algiers, which is such an epic and weighty and hefty film. And, it is as relevant now as it was in 1967 when it came out. And I think it was, Buthaina Kazim who led and facilitated the discussion amongst some wonderful people, really kind of brought some interesting perspectives to talk about how that film has influenced, the current Black Lives Matter movement, for example, or even we had somebody in there who's an editor of a fashion culture magazine, and how that film is kind of relevant. And then we had two academics who really had interesting perspective, and a filmmaker from Algeria. And I think it really is a kind of microcosm of what we'd like to see more of, this kind of discussion. Maria mentioned we not only have a dearth or a scarcity of work that's being shown from our region by us, but also a conversation about this work. And I think, I was really, very privileged and honored to kind of introduce that talk and be part of that. And, I learned so much during that talk. So, please, if those who haven't watched it, take your time out, and while you're doing your laundry or something, listen to it on the side. It'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you, Muhammad and everyone. So if we can go to Miriam to share with us the same sort of aspirations you have for the page, and what is it also based on where you're at that you'd like to communicate? Because people, not just in the United States or Europe or throughout the world, but specifically in the Arab world, maybe have this particular idea, usually problematic, about the Arab countries in what is called the Gulf or the Gulf region. So it'll be great to hear your views generally, but also about this if you have a second.
Thank you. I think my colleagues has said much about the page. Maybe I can mention what I am also excited about. It's a section, I don't know if we can reveal that section now. It will handle archive, but I'm really, really excited for it because it speaks truly about the strength of the visual, the visual, like, let's say, narratives. So many times in the Arab region, we had colonialism. We had either the British or French documenting our history and telling the history the way they see it. And I can see now there are a lot of, let's say, some individual trends where people are trying to look back at their visual archives, and they kind of try to either have a certain interpretation, or they are trying to retell their narratives through this archive. So I'm really, really interested or excited, let's say, in what this section will bring. I'm really excited for it. And I think this part in particular. And I think my colleagues have said much about what this page would be. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mariam. Faris, do you have any last words or aspirations or commentary on what you perhaps would like to bring?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think everyone has done a good job of explaining, where the page is going. But when I came into this, I came in with a personal agenda of what I want to see done. I think one thing for me definitely is that over generations, especially as Palestinians, we've seen ourselves presented in the media, but my generation, we haven't, there's no videos of us protesting. There's no videos of us demonstrating. I mean, we refer to videos that were in the first and second Intifada, and we see it in the war of Gaza. So a lot of times, like, what has this generation done? But you know, what's weird about my generation is that through an app like TikTok, I'm able to engage in a political conversation with an Israeli through a dance battle. And so I think for me, I kind of want to show that, you know, we're not silent, we're not, removed from the conflict, but we're just finding other ways to do it. And there's power in it. And we saw weeks ago, I mean, through TikTok, a Trump rally was completely booked and he barely had anyone show up because us TikTokers were on it and we were reserving those seats. So I think, you know, my generation were able to engage with people and opposition parties in ways that no generation could, because we literally have it on our phones that we can use at any time. And then the other thing is, you know, I've been reading articles on Jedelia since I was 15 years old, and, you know, very academic, very important, definitely gave me a lot of insight into the Arab world. But then, you know, there's a part of me, and it might be my ADD kicking in or the fact that I was a kid, I'm just like, but where's something fun? You know, like there's amazing stuff, so powerful, but I'm just like, where's the fun? So I hope that, you know, I've been exposed to Arab things like StepFeed and then American things like BuzzFeed and all of these things, and maybe find an academic way to incorporate it into Jedelia as part of, you know, audiovisual narratives of things, you know, like astrology, things like social media, all of these things that I think, you know, the older generation might be surprised by, but interested in, and that my generation are like, oh, well, finally there's an Arab page where we can do all of this too. So that's my personal agenda. But overall, I think it's just going to be an amazing collaborative effort between the team and really showing off so many amazing, you know, writers and journalists and academics from the region that I wouldn't have heard of otherwise.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Faris. And please don't call Jedelia academic period, because it's actually far beyond. But I see what you're saying. If you were 15 and you were reading Jedelia, hats off. I really appreciate that perspective. Just to share with you, you in particular, because I might actually pull you away, we might pull you away at Jedelia to also join the, at this point, sort of the dormant team that produces the page Vox Populi, which is basically about the kinds of things you're talking about. And it is actually an on and off page, and it comes on sometimes, and we actually produce amazing material, and then it just, like, you know, goes away, kind of like a giant. It sleeps for like a few months. So we'll talk about this more later. Thank you all so much. I am delighted that we were able to finish on time. Like when I said 45 minutes, because we started a couple of minutes behind after 2 p.m., I thought this was ambitious, but thank you all so much. We are all very excited at Jedelia to actually be working with you and to be learning from you. I mean, there's going to be a lot of learning taking place because we actually don't necessarily have the perspective you do at all. Some of us at all, some of us more than others. So it's very exciting. I look forward to working with everyone, and we look forward to seeing what the page is going to produce in the coming days, weeks, and months. Thank you all. It's really important that to say before we leave that everyone on the photography page lives in the region, which is actually the region broadly, which is actually really encouraging, and it's important because it's part of Jedelia's message, because many of our editors and writers actually reside in the region. Not just from the region, they're from the region and reside in the region, which is why Jedelia is often read and viewed as also a local publication because of this fact. So thank you all for joining, and if there is nothing that somebody here would like to share, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you on jedelia.com photography and visual narratives page.
Much to come. Big plans. Hoping to work with you all. Thank you, Jedelia. We love to be part of your team. Thank you.
Shukran. Thank you all. Salam.
Here.
Bye.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, no, we're not going to do this. Bye.